Hi, welcome back to Men's World today. Today we're talking about resilience, to stay balanced and to keep moving when life throws its hardest punches. My guest is Benedict Lamb, a British designer whose work redefines modern masculinity through craftsmanship, sustainability, and soul. His creations blend brutalist beauty with monastic calm. Benedict's approach to design is deeply personal. Every piece is handmade, every detail intentional, a reflection of patience and discipline. Behind the brand is a man balancing fatherhood, creativity, and purpose. Someone who understands that strength isn't just physical, it's emotional, spiritual, and often quietly tested. In this episode, we will talk about how trauma can become a turning point rather than dead end, how ritual, craft, and reflection can help men navigate adversity and stay grounded. So, Benedict, welcome to Men's World today.
Hello, George, and thank you for having me on. And thank you for such a wonderful introduction, by the way. That sounds amazing.
You're an inspiring guy. And,
Oh, thank you, George. Yeah.
Tell us, how did you become a fashion designer?
I've always been a self-described fashion victim, without doubt, and always been a huge fan of fashion since my teenage days. In my late teens, I began professional modeling and had some success with that internationally for about 5 or 6 years, and it was on the catwalk circuit in Paris, Milan, New York, and of course London. After that period, which coincided with me getting married and having my first child, I moved on to something which felt a bit more stable, which was fashion styling, which I did for a good few years. That job morphed into art direction, predominantly for music, actually, more than fashion at that time. And I kind of ended up in a world of TV, commercials, music and pop promo, and producing like live music events. So everything from set design to costume design, to casting of dancers, to projection design. And I was basically an art director for a couple of record companies, and also had a period at 4 Creative, Film 4 on Channel 4. So I had quite a diverse set of jobs, but they were all under one kind of umbrella, as it were. They're all in the same field. And then during the 20 odd years that I did art direction, a very small part of that job was actually costume design, predominantly for singers or DJs, and that was always the bit I loved the most. I would start with my concept, and then I would work with incredible technicians to produce these things. And it took a long time for me to kind of, I guess, have the courage to sort of give up at least a semi-stable career. So I gave up the art direction, focused on the fashion. This was about 6-7 years ago now. It's been my passion, and I have put together a team of incredible artisans. So from the tailors to the weavers, metal workers, leather workers, incredible makeup artists, hair stylists, photographers, videographers, a cast of amazing models that are predominantly my friends, all my friends' children now. Showing my age now. So we've got a kind of 2-tiered, multi-generational thing with our shows now. And really, it's kind of like assembling our own tribe as we are growing as a brand. I mean, we've done, as you said, a couple of really big shows this year, which for us were very much landmarks, including the British Museum, which was an incredible experience for us. Now we're in where we are right now in Joe Corey's The Lighthouse in Soho. It's all very new and exciting. And again, very flattering for us to be chosen as one of the designers, under Joe's, Lighthouse umbrella. We've started selling to the public. Boy George, fortunately, was one of our very first clients, in fact, here. So, we for the first time actually had a shop window. I mean, our situation prior to this was that we were bespoke only. We worked behind closed doors in a studio, by appointment only, and predominantly we made clothes for performers, so singers, dancers, actors, actresses. We are bespoke and specialist, and without doubt avant-garde. So we have some of the best tailors in the country, without doubt the best sari Japanese weavers in the country. There literally are 5 or 6 people in the country that can do what we do. Wow. So it's very, very specialised. I rely heavily on making the right choices and having the right talents around, but also the right personalities. So it's very important to create a really positive working environment and working atmosphere. And anyone that comes, as you have been, George, backstage at one of our shows, for instance, will see a really positive vibe and everyone's really into the project. So the team's growing, but my point was basically to be super selective about kind of who you let into your life on a personal level. Now I have quite a protective policy, and that's protecting me, my brand, my incredible team of friends and artisans that support and make it all possible. On my own, none of this could happen.
Yes,
so protectionism is without doubt a tool and a philosophy that I use. It just removes a whole, section of worry in one's life and time that could be wasted on those things. And if you're working with amazing people, then you can really focus on the creativity and the good bits.
You've just described this huge environment that you created and you're the hub of it. How do you maintain balance?
Balancing for anybody, personal life and business life is always a juggling act, I think, for anyone, and particularly if you run your own business. If you have extra problems, let's call them challenges. My son Zach, for instance, who's 28 years old, lives with me full time and has a very rare epilepsy and autism. The fears and the worries that have gone with that, but also having the joy and the celebratory nature of my son, who's without doubt the happiest being on earth that I know. Balancing work and family. I mean, I would always say family comes first,
right?
But to be an optimized father, you need to feel good about yourself. And there have been periods, certainly in my son's younger years, when he was, for instance, spending more than 4 months a year in hospital. Right. So during those periods, there was no fashion label, there was no work. That was me focusing solely on him and basically keeping him alive, to be honest. Now we've got to a point where his condition is stabilized, but having a work-life balance where I'm optimized, I'm creative, I'm happy, I'm doing the things that I want to do, and then lo and behold, once I'm in dad mode, which is pretty much every day, by the way, then I'm a far better father.
Okay, as you said, like you've got family pulling in one direction, general family pulling in one direction, you've got business pulling in one direction. Business, not just any business, the creative business that you're in, pulling in the other direction. And then, like, you have as you said, the Zach requires a little bit more attention, Do you ever feel guilty when you're not at home, for example, when you think, actually, what am I doing in the studio when I could be at home with family?
First of all, the relationship with my son is going nowhere. I mean, we're incredibly tight.
Right, okay.
We've got 4 different people on rotation, so basically my son is never ever alone. Most importantly, these people are not only medically trained and brilliant at their jobs, but they all adore my son. All the carers have been with us for many years now, and they're like extended family now. So again, it's like that's another team that we put together. So our family shape and our living environment is quite unusual. I can go to work knowing that he's happy, and if I'm away for a couple of days, I'm sure he misses me and I miss him. But again, it's about balance. And, there's been times in his life, as I said, where he's been, extremely ill. And then there's no work going on. And, blood is thicker than everything, So family first. And now, because he's stable and because we got him on, optimized medications, then his condition is, 95% better than it was. He still has epilepsy. He still has the occasional seizure. I mean, every week he'll have 2 or 3 seizures still. But that's compared to 15 seizures a night for 15 years. Again, it's like glass half full, glass half empty, so although we still have problems, we are so much better off than we were with him.
So do you have any routines or rituals that keep you grounded? And as we mentioned, there's a lot going on in your life. What do you do to keep all these things going?
Having some time on my own. So first thing in the morning, I have quiet time. So having a cup of coffee, and I wouldn't say I meditate, but I just think, maybe that is meditation, but I like to have quiet time, no TV, no radio, just walking, just being outside. I mean, a lot of what I do, I can spend a day on a computer all day, like lots of us can. Just by going outside and changing your perspective. So that's medicinal in itself. I can be kind of quite tunnel vision with things. So with my son, when I'm in that mode, I'm in that mode. And with my work, I'm quite obsessive to produce what I produce. Of course, I'm quite obsessive about what I do. And then it's just structure, like by having the great support from my son at home and amazing carers, which I don't have to worry about because they are all amazing. And then at work, I come and work with amazing people that are a pleasure to be with.
Yeah.
And I don't have to question their abilities or their motivations or their, so we have a high level of trust, which is great.
Mental health is very much in the limelight at the moment. How do you deal with emotional stress? How did you handle that breakup, that recovery, and then to be where you are now?
My divorce was well over 20 years ago. So, and there's been many challenges, which I would consider to be much bigger than that since then, to be honest. So when we separated, to start with, it was a traditional situation where I was the weekend dad. And then over a period of years, eventually I took over more and more until I had full custody of both children.
Right.
And this happened at a time when my son was at his illest, in fact. His condition was very challenging and felt life-threatening. So I took full custody, and it was a time when we managed to get him on a drug trial, which was medical cannabis. And my son's actually quite famous in that world now for being the first person in the UK to have a license.
Oh, wow.
And that was the medication that within 10 days improved his condition 95%. So that gave us stability, that gave him stability, and stopped him, being eternally exhausted by his own condition. And the rest of the family was being obviously, constantly, exhausted as well by that. But we still work, with that. So you just move your foundational baseline. Everybody's got problems. These just happen to be my challenges. For me, it's about trying to solve as many of the foundational issues as possible and just having some stability, even with problems. Of course, everyone has problems. And then managing your life with some kind of balance, as I said before, where you get to be yourself up to a point. I mean, in the world of like parents and carers, I mean, they call it respite. Have I ever felt depressed about any of these things? Yeah, well, absolutely, many times. So depression is. I don't think anyone goes through life without suffering some level of depression at some point. And there's so many triggers for that. Having a child like Zach, who, as I said, is now 28 years old. Yeah. Of course, he's nearly died, dozens of times in his life, dozens, so every time that happens, of course, that's like terrifying and worrying and depressing. But then you have to reset. You have to always do something good. If something bad happens, then my survival mechanism is to do something good. We all walk around with like negative things we have to carry, and some of those can be solved, and many of them won't. Many of them are just going to be with you. So you have to accept that, and then moving forwards with positive things for my son, positive things for myself, positive things for my business, balances out all of that stuff, and then you get a new baseline basically, and then you work from that, and you just have to kind of try and reset. Sometimes you can do that in a day. Sometimes maybe that takes a few days or maybe longer, depending on what it is. And again, having people you can talk to about it, I think is the thing. And that's one of the reasons I was, happy to do this interview, is because I do think that, your questions about men's mental health particularly are very valid. I think it is something that's been talked about a bit more now, but men are famous for not talking about their stuff. It is about balance and, fighting to get my son's medical, situation as correct as it can be. And that included legal battles with the NHS, for instance, and then fighting to produce a brand and do all the things that any small business has to do. A warrior themed situation. And bizarrely, if you look at my clothes, which are surrounded by right now, you will see that the warrior theme is something that for men and for women, our clothes are predominantly androgynous. I want to dress men and women completely equally for a start, but also as warriors. So it takes people with some sort of strength to actually want to wear our clothes, I think, for a start.
Actually, and you just actually answered my question, but I want to go a little bit more into that about the warrior nature, because I look at your clothes. Some of you might not know. I tried a couple of pieces on, and I look fantastic, man. Yeah,
but you did look good.
But you told me what exactly have you got in mind with this, from the fabrics, the uniqueness of the designs, the bespokeness, the detail.
I mean, everything surrounding me is a product of my obsessive nature and my passions with fashion, right? So since I was, in my late teens, early 20s, when I first worked in fashion, I was lucky enough to work with Yohji Yamamoto, Issey Miyake, Matsuda, Fujiwara. At the time, all the best Japanese designers on the planet I worked with. So without doubt, my love for their designs, my love for their work ethos, my love for the way that they behaved in a group with a business. And so I've learned so much from that. And I base there's clear Japanese influences to a lot to a lot of what I do. But then there's also punk. There's anatomical references, which is where a lot of the kind of warrior and kind of soft armor stuff comes from. So the clothes are designed to empower people. The clothes are designed for, on one level, kind of superstars, people that are creatives, people that have got the courage to wear the clothes in a way as well. So the weaving stuff is basically couture. Yeah. It takes 3 to 4 weeks to make one garment. So our price points on that stuff are high. Every single garment is completely unique. So I fell in love with all of those philosophies and the artisans that make the stuff and the skill involved in it. I like to describe it as soft armor, basically. Right. These are not bulletproof vests, but spiritually and philosophically, without doubt, based on, for instance, samurai armor. Some of the tailoring is based on that. So what the image I'm trying to project is one of strength, one of individuality, one of blending in is losing, which is a philosophy that I really love and stick by.
How have you learned about strength? And what's the hardest moment you've had to be strong?
Well, I think every day, to be honest. I mean, of course, I can pick some moments when, as I've mentioned before, my son with his condition has nearly died many times. I mean, all those really scary moments are more than 10 years behind us now because he is stabilised. But they were, of course, terrifying. Today, I have ongoing problems. I have legal battles. I have everything that goes along with trying to start a new business and promote it, and the competitive nature of what we do. Understanding that you are going to be living and accepting a certain amount of stress. Understanding that even with support, ultimately it's all on you. The amazing people that I put around myself, and I'm lucky enough to have. But ultimately, the buck stops with me, and the buck stops with you, and individually, we're all responsible for our own situations. So, having the strength to say, "Well, this is all on me." Yeah. So, we've all been hurt by other people's decisions and judgments, and the older I get, I've learned to ignore those, and in fact, often turn them into motivating positives. I will channel that into something either responsive or creative. Good example, the fashion shows. Of course, I get nervous doing these things, and it's a lot of work. The bit I'm not nervous about is people's opinion of my clothes. I put on a show and I do my thing. And when people come to us, we just recently got some celebrities coming to us, which is fantastic. Of course, it feels like a stamp of approval in a way, which is nice. And I won't pretend that that's not a good thing, So of course it's like, okay, well, I'm on the right track. That's great. My starting point is not, okay, I'm designing for, a financial or an age-based demographic. It's just not that at all. I'm just making often quite fantasy level clothes, to be honest. And then when people come to us and understand them, then it works.
What's been your biggest success in terms of fashion?
First of all, we're all a product of our experiences. Yeah. I'm in my 50s now, so I've had several careers. I've lived in several countries, and I am without doubt a collage of those experiences. And the clothes that we're sitting around now represent influences from the 90s until now, basically, without doubt. So that on a creative level. So I'm proud of the different career paths I've had. I've had some success at a few different things. Ending up here doing the label now. It's the first time that I'm 100% creatively in charge of my project. So working as a model, a art director, a stylist, you're always working for a team. And although you have creative input, ultimately the director or the client has the final yes or no. Yeah. Now I'm in a situation where I have the final yes or no. So whether anyone else likes it or not, I'm totally in charge of it. So that gives me a lot of creative satisfaction. Like you coming and trying the clothes on, so that you've seen that process, right? So I love people trying it on and going, wow, and kind of understanding it about.
And how much of an emphasis do you put on recognizing your own success as a family man and as a person?
I mean, I'm very proud of the fact that my son is still alive, quite frankly, and is so happy, and I've dedicated a big chunk of my life to that. I work as a medical cannabis campaigner. I've spoken in Parliament many times, House of Lords, been to 10 Downing Street twice, all on my son's behalf, and to help other families gain the access. So I'm proud of that. And again, that's another amazing group of people that I work with that run it's often the mums, to be honest. There's not many single dads in that world, because the men often are the ones that can't handle it, to be honest. I'm proud of the fact that anyone that has children will love their kids, to varying degrees, and having a cause, having a reason to give your child the best, give you the best education, the best holidays, the best access to the world, the best bandwidth for decision making, the best options for careers, all those things that you would want. With my son, it's different because of his condition. So there's, he's not going to have a career, right? So the best things I can give him is health and happiness. Proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I put him before myself, and even now, like if he has a bad day, then I won't be here. I'll be there. Anyone that's fighting for, like I said, all the epilepsy charities, medical cannabis charities, all these amazing other parents that are all kind of like fighting for the rights for their kids' lives. I look at those situations and see how much more important that is than making pretty clothes. Right? Saving children's lives and being in a group of other parents where I've been in these groups for over 20 years now. So some of these kids don't make it. So you get to know parents, and then the child dies. When you see those things happening, first of all, you're blessed, that my son is still alive. Yeah. And secondly, this is only fashion.
What's been the biggest failure, and what have you taken away from it? Because the trouble is sometimes, as I said, when we're going through something bad, nature forces you to go through something so you can come out, so it forces you to learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's overview, there's life experience. Of course, we all make mistakes. We all have dramas, traumas, things that hurt us. There's also a thing called the wedge effect. So the wedge effect is a sort of baseline equation which says you need more and more of the same thing to feel the same emotion. So therefore, that works in reverse. So if you have a problem, as time goes on, the same problem will slowly become minimized, will slowly reduce, because you can't feel as upset on day 7 as you did on day 1. So time literally is a healer. And it's all about perspective. So, like when you're in the middle of a particular a heartbreak, a business folding, a court case, something really dramatic, your focus will be so on that.
Yes.
Yeah? And then guess what? The rest of the world is like invisible at that point. Yes. You don't even think about the rest of the world, right? So, don't react immediately. Take a breath, think about something before you kind of charge in with it. And then every time you do survive one of those things, guess what? You're a little bit tougher and you're a bit more powerful. Right? So I'm not saying wear your disasters as medals, but in a strange sort of way, they are. But if you survive them and they don't kill you, then it becomes a power.
As you know, the theme of this interview has been about resilience, and clearly, you've been through it. But given that you're a designer, if you were to picture resilience, what sort of texture would you give it? What sound would you give it? What color would you give it?
Okay, well, the colors and the texture is pretty easy because we're actually surrounded by it right here. So that's pretty easy. The tailoring is all predominantly black, which is, first of all, any fashionista's first choice. Right. But secondly, it gives it this kind of like monastic, serious look. The warrior look into a serious fashionista vibe. The weaving, as you can see, is like kind of every color of the rainbow, and that's for the contrast. So that's like the peacock, basically. That's that's the warrior wearing the technicolored armor. Texturally, you can see here. I mean, it's all about texture, in fact. So the weaving has texture. How we design the patterns, which are anatomical based. So a lot of these patterns are based on like blood veins, and muscles. Emotionally, an overview color would be kind of black into grey. The strength through design, the fact that it takes kind of courage to wear some of our clothes. Like a lot of people wouldn't have the energy or the desire or the courage to be walking around in this stuff. But the people that gravitate towards it and love it, and this is true certainly when we do model castings. We cast people that are already fully formed characters in their own right. They all look different. They're all different ages. They're all different colors. They're all different. So we have this kind of global tribe look. From 17 years old to 67 years old in our last show, I cast human beings that are like brimming with character in their own right already. And they're the people that really bring the clothes alive.
What advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
Value yourself enough to choose who you let into your life.
Mm-hmm.
People make mistakes and let people in because they seek approval. So people looking for approval will make bad decisions.
So what's next for your brand? What are you introducing?
Okay, well, you've just opened up a can of worms. So there's many things I can add to that. So we're planning our next major show in February for London Fashion Week, where obviously, we've only been open in Joe Corey's The Lighthouse for the shop's only been open for just over a month.
Right.
So we are getting our trade going here. We are bringing people in on, we are by appointment only. You can see the room we're in. It's quite a unique environment. So we have to kind of educate people to what we're doing. And It's a different way of shopping. It's a different way of presenting clothes. Our clothes are out on their own in a way as well. We've got some great collabs coming. We've got a sunglasses range we're working on. We've got an underwear range we're working on, as an example, as well as a few others. We are looking at other shops abroad as well, as in some other countries, which I won't. And to be honest, the reason I do what we do and the way we do it, making these kind of very sort of specialist avant-garde clothes, is because that's what I love doing. And my favorite part is actually not selling the clothes. It's making the clothes.
Wow.
Right. So for me to be in a studio working with these incredible people and making the next evolutionary batch of clothes, and every time we make a new piece, it's in some way it's evolved from the last one. So it's a constant process of evolution. And then also combining artisans. So perhaps we get a Mongolian person working with an African person that would never have met. And we've already done some of these kind of cross-pollinations with 3D knitwear specialists, meeting the weavers, meeting the tailors, and some of our garments involve 4 or 5 different people to make one thing now.
Wow.
So that's my philosophy for expansion, which is almost anti-capitalist. So rather than going for mass production, which generally is the thing, we want to remain very specialist, very artisan-led, and the way we will grow is by having more and more artisans.
Right. Okay.
Pockets of them around the world.
Okay. Benedict, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, George, for having me.
You've been very inspirational. I hope you found something in this you can take away.
Yeah, and come and see us, 48 Berwick Street.
At the Lighthouse Luxury Fashion Emporium. This place is owned by Joe Corey. It's a fantastic place to find yourself amongst a fantastic curated collection of designers. And you can be found, you've got a website as well.
You can find us on benedictlamb.com, and our new products come out on the website every sort of two or 3 weeks. We have new releases. Everything's bespoke and unique, and the same with the shop. It's updated fairly regularly. So always something new to come and find and something new to see.
There is soul to this place. There is life to this place. And when you're going through the hard times in your life, you're not alone. Most of us have been through it. You will come out at the end of it. Stay strong and find a positive counterbalance to every negative situation you find yourself in. So until next time, guys, have a good day and take care of yourselves.